Okay, so let me share a screen. I hope it's visible to everyone. Is this screen visible to
Yes, sir. Yes,
everyone?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Let me start it. So this is what affair we left last day. So we were about to look into something called recycler view, and this was the last screen. Okay, let's just study this last screen one more time. So in the last lecture, we discussed about animation and we discussed about transitions. And we saw that there is a fragment API. In fragment API, there are two kinds of frameworks. One is animation framework, other is transition framework. So in transition framework, we were doing transition framework. In transition framework, we were doing shared element transitions. From one fragment, there is an element that needs to be shared. Okay, and we saw how we can do it. And we did not use recycler view. Okay, and today's session we will be looking at recycler view, how we can use a recycler view to do this kind of a transition from such that an element from one fragment can be transported to another fragment, okay, using recycler view. So this was something that I discussed in the last lecture, that when you are using a recycler view, okay, you must wait for any data to load, and for recycler view items to be ready to draw before starting the transition. So this way you can say that recycler view things like, because it's like when I am here, wait becomes rule. So it mandates the waiting process. Okay, so let's talk about the philosophy of recycler view. What do you mean by this kind of a philosophy? So it says that, let me just use an annotation to draw this thing. Suppose you have, this is your mobile phone screen, and on this mobile phone, you have some application like email application. Okay. So in an email application, you have various emails. Okay. Let's say these are the emails, uh, email headings. So clicking on one particular heading, you can get a detailed email. Let's say this is email 1, email 2, email 3, email 4. Okay, just imagine this kind of scenario, and there is a scroll bar associated with this because the number of emails are many. Okay, so this kind of a list view, you can implement this kind of a list view by using recycler view. Okay, so you can create an object of a recycler view which can implement this thing, which can implement this kind of a list. And what is so special in this kind of list, and how this list is different from other lists? Other lists might be static, okay, and this kind of a list is a kind of a list that has to be populated with a lot of data, where the data is large, where you have a larger amount of data, okay, and you want that larger amount of data to be imported to the list. So you need some advanced list. In that case, you need some flexible list. In that case, so that advanced list or a flexible list is an object of a recycler view. Okay, so it contains multiple components. If we talk about recycler view, it contains multiple components that makes this thing possible. Okay, one of the component of this recycler view is let me just say, one of the component of recycler view is view view handler view handler. Okay, so view handler is what? View handler represents this box, this particular thing that contains an item, list item. Okay, that represents this thing. So whenever a data is available, let's say data comes from a server, let's say it's an email application. Okay, data come from a server, and your application is receiving the list of emails. Okay, and those list of emails, the kind of data that we are talking about, the text of, the heading of an email, that is populated to the view handler through through an adapter. Okay, and that means there is something called adapter. That's another component of a recycler view. Okay, so you have adapter. So what happens, this adapter is keeping a track of data. So once the data is ready, okay, and and this element is also visible. Okay, so it updates this view handler so that the data becomes visible over here. And the moment, let's say these one, let's say, so just imagine that the font is very high on your mobile device and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 email entities only. And let's say you scroll down. Okay, so what happens? The other item, the fifth email item is going to appear on the screen. Okay, so before it gets appear on the screen, it's because of a recycler view optimization process, because it is very much optimized. Okay, so because of its optimization process, the fifth element that is to be displayed because you are scrolling down is already ready with the data. Okay, so adapter has already bound that data to the view handler. Okay, so this was just a small introduction of recycler view. Okay, with this particular thing, we will move to the process of how we can use this recycler view to use the shared element transitions. So let me just clear the drawing and let's move on to the next slide. Okay, with this small introduction of recycler view, let's move forward. Okay, yeah, let's take an example. So we talked about a postponed transition. Okay, I hope you are comfortable with the notion of postponed transition. If you are not, then let me just say that one more time. Postponed transition is a kind of a transition that is that you, let's say for example, a view is being loaded. Okay, user interface is getting ready. Okay, and you do not want the transition that you have defined, let's say fade in transition or slide in transition that you have defined in XML files. You do not want those transitions to happen until or unless your views are updated with their contents. Okay, so what you do, you fire a command called postpone enter transition. So that postpone enter transition, okay, will be postponed. Enter transition will be postponed. It will wait for view to be loaded. So once it is loaded fully, only then you can begin, you can start the transition. Okay, and I'm just coming back. I have a call. Yeah, I am back. Sorry for the little interruption. So I was talking about, let's say you have a transition and you have mentioned, and that transition is an enter transition, and you have defined that and specified that this kind of a transition is associated with a fragment. And if that fragment is going to enter into a screen, and this is how it is going to enter into a screen. So you have defined certain transition. It could be slide in, it could be fade in, fade out. Okay, whatever you have transition. The point is that you have postponed it because you know that internet connectivity is lower. Okay, let the resources fully loaded, and after that you say that okay, once it is loaded, then you can, then it makes sense to have the transition, have some kind of animated transition that is happening on this screen. Okay, so this example says that before you use recycler view, okay, you have to ensure. So this example is in the context of recycler view. Okay, this example is not in the context of anything else. It is in the context of recycler view. So it says that before you make use of recycler view for doing that transition happen, so you need to ensure that all fragments views have been measured. So in this case, you can imagine that this is your mobile phone device. Okay, and mobile phone device has certain thing called container. It has a container, and on that container, okay, you have these kind of fragments which are going to be loaded. So you need to measure the you need to have the measurement okay, done, and you need to be sure that these kind of fragments are properly measured and are ready to be loaded. Okay, so unless or until it is done, okay, so you can act as this police guy which stops this postponed enter transition to happen. And once it is done, once you are once you are, you know, sure that yes, the fragments, the elements are properly measured and properly laid out, okay, then you can decide that okay, the postpone enter transition can happen. Okay, so once So you need to wait. So that's what the wait element I was talking about, the waiting notion I was talking about. So you have to wait until or unless all the resources are loaded down, and once it is done, then you can do that postpone enter transition. Okay. And let's see the code in action. Okay, code in action, because till now I have not written anywhere here that we are using recycler view. Okay. And here also I have not mentioned any notion of a recycler view, but this thing is mandatory if you're using a recycler view. Okay, so waiting is necessary if you are mandating. So these two slides are emphasizing the waiting notion. So this is a piece of a code that explains the the entry of a recycler view. So it says that, let's say a fragment, this is the fragment that you want this, let's say this is the transition that is supposed to be postponed. Okay, because this fragment is getting ready. Okay, so a fragment in its on view created method, okay, in its on view created life cycle, it has said that I want to postpone enter transition because I have resources that need to be laid down, I have measurements that need to be made. Okay, so the next statement is it gets some hold on to its parent. Okay, and we can imagine that if we talk about a fragment goes into an activity. Okay, so that's why the symbol looks like an activity. Okay, so you have an activity, on that activity you have a fragment. So initially you say that, okay, you are in a fragment is in its on view created life cycle. So that means the views of a fragment are getting created. Okay, and during the creation you have initially mentioned that let it create fully. Okay, so you do not need any kind of a transition, enter transition, so you need to postpone that. Say that at the beginning it is postponed, I'm postponing enter transition, and after that you get a hold on of the parent. Like in this case, this was a parent. Okay, this is an activity and these are the fragments in that activity. Okay, so getting hold on a parent is possible with this statement. Okay, parent view, that you can get through a command called get parent. Okay, and get parent of a view that was passed in on view created. Okay, and after that you call a recycler view. So if you see view model dot get data, okay, so recycler view has a view model as a component. I told you that recycler view has multiple components. One of the component was view holder. I did not talk about view model at that time, but view model is also one of the component of recycler view. So view model dot get data. Okay, so this calls get data dot observe. So it has two arguments, LCO and observer. LCO is life cycle owner and observer as a second argument. So it gets hold of the life cycle owner. Okay, so this view model fires this method called get data. Okay, and then it is passed with it calls observe method, and it is passed with life cycle owner and observer. Okay, so it observes the events that are happening. Okay, so this observer is going to observe the events which are happening, events like whether the elements are properly laid out. Okay, events like the events which you are waiting for finish. Okay, that those are the events I'm talking about. So just here I mentioned you that you need to ensure that all the fragment views have been measured. So these are the events, are they measured, are they laid out? Okay, and once they are done, only then you are ready to uh, start the postpone transition. So see here, you initially you said that, okay, fragment is in on view created method, and then you say that, okay, postpone transition because the resources are yet to be loaded. Okay, look, catch hold of a parent view, and after that call this method from a recycler view, get data dot observe LCO and observer. Okay, and after that get ask for an adapter. Okay, I told you that there is an adapter which which does the job of binding the data to the view holder. Okay, and then this adapter, okay, once it is done, this adapter will binds the data from some database, okay, to the fragment. Okay, and this is what we have already seen. So here we have here your parent view is associated with get view tree observer. Okay, and this makes sure this kind of statement, parent view dot get tree observer dot add on pre-draw listener. So this statement makes sure, this whole statement makes sure this this statement ensure that all of the fragment views have been measured and laid out completely and therefore ready to be drawn before beginning the postpone transition. Okay, so this statement, okay, let's say once they are measured properly, then the postpone enter transition, you can start the postpone enter transition. So once it is started, you can associate that transition with the fragment, and you can say that now you can enter into the user interface the way you are defined in an XML notion. I hope this discussion makes sense to you. Okay, so there are certain points to note while using recycler view. Okay, and we have seen these 2 points over here. First point over here, not the second point, but the first point. We have seen that view tree observer dot on pre-draw listener. So see here, we have view tree observer, here. No, not here. View tree observer dot on pre-draw listener. So let's talk about on pre-draw listener. So this is pre-draw, yeah, on pre-draw listener is been added to the parent view. Okay, on pre-draw listener has been added by using add on pre-draw listener. Okay, and it has been added to the parent view. Okay, so this is what it's saying, that this is the point to be noted why it has been added to the parent view. It's set on the parent view of the fragment view so that you can ensure the suitable time to fire the postcode transition. Okay, so what is the suitable time for to fire the postman transition? When everything is loaded, everything is measured. Okay, all the fragments are measured properly. Okay, all the fragments are loaded with the data and it is ready. Okay, so that is the time, that is a suitable time. So you have done this, you have done that statement, view tree observer dot on pre-draw listener. Okay, just to ensure when is the suitable time for postponing, for starting the postpone transition. Next point to note down is you cannot set a transition name the way we set a transition name when we were not using recycler view. Like in the last lecture, let me just go to that slide where I mentioned you have to write names also. Okay, like here we mentioned the names. Yeah, here I mentioned that you need to, no, not here. No, yeah, this was not the case. You need to name. Okay, let's say this is we talked about. Yeah, name uniquely. This is the slide I wanted to show you. Okay, so how to do it? So what is being talked about? How to do it? So this shared transition. So there was a fragment. Okay, there's a fragment here, and there is an entire fragment that needs to be populated. Okay, so to do this process, let's say this is fragment one, and the entire thing is a fragment two. To do this process, you need to follow 3 steps. So the first step is assign a unique transition name, and we saw that names can be set using XML file in an XML file. So this is an XML file. So name uniquely. So we saw that you can name in an XML file. Okay, but here in this process, when you're using a recycler view, okay, when you're using a recycler view, you cannot use a XML layout file because an arbitrary number of items share that layout. So instead, if you want to associate a transition name, okay, this is how you do it. I told an example of a view holder. View holder is a component of recycler view. So this is how you create your view holder. Okay, so you just need to derive a class, let's say example view holder, which extends recycler view dot view holder. So it says that recycler view is a class, and inside that there is subclass which is called view holder. Okay, there's that's a part of a class. Okay, recycler view has that's some kind of aggregation. Okay, so you have a view holder. Similarly, you have adapter also inside a recycler view. Okay, so you have a view holder, and this is an image that we saw of a butterfly. Okay, and after that, here you are naming it. See, this is the command when you're binding a view holder. Okay, this is the command to set the transition name. Set transition name, image, and ID. Okay, and ID you pass to the bind function. Okay, and this is an ID we were talking about, ID of item underscore image. Okay, so you can give each item shared element a unique transition name by assigning them when a view holder is bound. So you can just imagine a view holder as an entity. Okay, that let's just let me just forward this thing. Let's just imagine that this is an application which is Gmail application or any email application. So this is a placeholder for an email entry. Okay, so this represents your view holder object. So recycler view contains a view holder. Okay. So when it is bound to data, when this view holder is bound to data by an adapter, okay, so this looks like this. So every view holder contains data now because the view holder has been bound to the data. You fired a method called onBind view holder. That's how you were able to. So every data view holder gets a data along with the position. So where, what is the position of an email, where it has to come. Okay, so this is what view holder was all about. View holder is a component of recycler view, and it is a placeholder for an item in the list view, because I told you that recycler view is an extended version or a flexible version of a list view. Okay. Okay. So yes, we were talking about this particular rectangle. You can give each item's shared element a unique transition name by assigning them when the view holder is bound. View holder is bound means when the data for a view holder is being fed to the view holder so that it can be displayed on the user interface. For example, if the data for each item includes unique ID, just imagine that every data item, let's say every email item that we saw just now, every email item includes a unique ID. That ID can be taken as a transition name. Okay, as shown in this example. So here, this name can be associated as a name of a transition. Okay, so the name of an item has been associated with the name of a transition. Okay, this is how you name a transition. Let's learn something about recycler view. Okay, so the tagline of a recycler view is that it displays large set of data in your UI while minimizing memory usage. Okay, where the list view doesn't have that capability of optimizing. Okay, so you have a recycler view in Android X library, Android X framework. Okay, so this is an API reference. You can have a selection from of selection kind of recycler view. You can have a widget kind of a recycler view. Okay, so androidx.recyclerview.selection, androidx.recyclerview.widget. Okay, and this table lists the artifacts in the androidx.recyclerview group, and this is as latest as October 1, 2020. Okay, so before you decide that you're going to make use of this view, this recycler view, this is the first step that you need to do. You need to declare dependencies in your build.gradle file. So inside build.gradle file, you need to specify something that that mentions about a recycler view, because you're declaring that in my project, I'm going to make use of recycler view. Okay, it's like in a C++ file or a C file. At the beginning, you declare that you are going to make use of these header files, hash include stdio.h, hash include conio.h. Now in this case over here, if you are going to use something, you have to declare the dependencies in build.gradle file. Okay, so this is how you do it. Okay, so you can read this Google's Maven repository for more information if you are interested. Okay, to add a dependency in Triskel, you must add the Google Maven repository to your project. This is how you have done it. Okay, add dependencies for the artifacts that you need in build.gradle file for your app or module. This is another thing that you need to do. Okay, you need to add dependencies, and here you mentioned the Android X or recycler view, colon recycler view, and then version of that. For control over item selection of both touch and mouse driven selection, you need to say in this thing implementation, Android X or recycler view, colon recycler view, hyphen selection, colon the version. Okay, so let's create a list with a recycler view. Okay, just imagine that this is I told you that this is an email application. If your app needs to display a scrolling list of elements, that means you have enormous amount of data. Okay, and one particular screen size is not able to show the entire data. So that's why you have a scroll bar associated with the view. Okay, so you can scroll down and scroll up to see the list of items that are not visible at the time. So if your app needs to display a scrolling list of elements based on a large data sets or a data that frequently changes. Okay, let's say for example you are visualizing an IPL score. Okay, and the score constantly keeps on changing. Okay, and even email also. So let's say you are very busy in your professional life, a lot of people try to email you out. Okay, and this email screen gets populated almost every minute or almost every, or let's say 30 seconds. So then you seek help of a recycler view. Okay, do not just rely on the traditional list view. seek help of recycler view, because recycler view does this job in an optimized fashion. Okay, at the same time you also get in memory optimization advantages when you're making use of this recycler view. Recycler view widget extends list view. Okay, and you can add two more statements to it. Let me just add using annotation. Using annotation. Are you able to? Yeah, are you able to see me? Are you able to see this screen? Hello.
So we see let's create a list with recycler views.
I hope I have done something. I pressed wrong button. Let me just. What do you see? What do you see?
There's a slide. There's a slide
Okay, there's a
with
slide, and
heading
okay, okay, then it is okay.
let's
I
create.
thought I created some button and the screen just became invisible. Okay, then if you are able to see that, then it's okay, fine. So I was just annotating. I was just going to annotate something to elaborate on the last point, which is recycler view widget extends list view. Okay, and you can add certain two more attributes to it. So you can say that recycler widget, okay, is an advanced and flexible version of list list view. Okay, and there's no space in list in view because list view is the name of a class. Okay, so you can add one more line to it. So recycler view is an advanced and flexible version of a list view. Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about this slide. So let's move on to the next slide. So recycler view represents a container in your, let's say, just imagine that this transparent thing, the transparent kind of two rhombus that you were seeing, it's your mobile phone, and the container rhombus, okay, container transparent rhombus is your user interface. Okay, so this recycler view is a container for the elements of your user interface. Okay, so what a recycler view looks the meaning of recycler view is that it will get all the items that layout manager is going to provide you. Okay, so there is something called layout manager that manages your layout. Layout can be linear, layout can be grid. Okay, as an example, I asked you people to do some project on Sunflower app, if you remember, in the lab. And in Sunflower app also there was a grid layout. Okay, so grid layout was used there with the recycler view. Okay, some of you mentioned that we have not done that recycler view. That's why I have taken up this recycler view as a topic, so that you can get comfortable, okay, with that. So we have seen there are two kind of layout managers: linear layout manager, it could be grid layout manager. Okay, what these managers contain, what these layout managers contain, these layout managers contain the view elements. Okay, so you can just imagine that this recycler view, okay, you whatever elements you pour into this recycler view from a layout manager, those elements, just imagine that those elements will be laid down properly into the area of a user interface. Okay, so that is possible, that is made possible with the components of a recycler view which are there in the recycler view. We'll have a look at what are the components of recycler view and how do they do it in a coding. Okay, if time doesn't permit, then we will do it in the next class. This is this screen. I hope the meaning of this screen is clear to you. I told you that there can be two layout managers. One is linear layout manager, other is grid layout manager. What do they contain? They contain view elements. So you can imagine that these are like the glasses or pots, okay, in which these are some of the view elements. Okay, and layout managers provide these view elements and recycler view accepts those view elements. Okay, and those view elements gets laid down on the user interface. Okay, so now this is with reference to that email application. If you take an example of your email application, so every row that shows your email, that is supposed to show your email, that represents a view holder object. Okay, so this is a view holder object. And what is a view holder? Actually, view holder is a class which is defined inside the recycler view class. Okay, so view holder acts as a holder for a view, a placeholder for a view. Okay, so this view holder is managed by an adapter. Okay, so adapter is responsible for creating as many view holders as required. Just imagine there is a scroll bar associated with it. Okay, you are able to see 1 2 3 4 5 6 emails only. Let's say you're looking for a particular email and your particular email is not within these 6 items. So what would you do? You would scroll, you would use a scroll bar. So in that scroll bar, when you use a scroll bar, you need another view holder object. Okay, so as a sense of optimization, let's say there are 1 2 3 4 5 6 elements already there. So your recycler view will already create a view holder, seventh view holder. Okay, so that once you scroll down, okay, it doesn't take that long to load it because it's already created, it's already populated internally into the memory. So the moment you scroll down, the populated view holder object, okay, will display the data which was bound by an adapter. Okay, so that's an optimization tweak that I just spilled the beans of. Okay, so how does it do it? How does the adapter binds the data to the view holder? It calls its method called on bind view holder. So on getting the on bind view holder, okay, it loads the data into the view holder. Okay, and at the desired position. Okay, so if it is at the 10th position, it will load that into the 10th position, or if it is at the second position, it will load the data into the second position. So now you are seeing that all the view holder objects, okay, are showing you the bound data. Okay, so the bound data, this is the bound data. So all the emails, so this contains star, the time, okay, and the subject, okay, the main headline, subject, whatever the elements of the email lines are all about. Okay, now these are some of the optimizations that I also talked about informally when I was discussing this recycler view. So there are 3 points of optimization. Okay, and the first point I mentioned, you suppose you have suppose when the list is first populated, it creates and binds some view holders on either side of the list. For example, if a view is if a view is displaying list position 0 through 9, recycler view creates and binds those view holders, and might also create and bind a view holder for position number 10. Okay, suppose on a screen you are visualizing 0 to 9, 10 elements. So it also gets ready the view holder for the next position. That way, if a user scrolls the list, the next item is ready to display. I hope it makes sense to you. Second optimization point is, as these users scrolls the list, the recycler view creates new view holders as necessary. And who is responsible for creating that? Adapter is responsible for creating that. Okay, it also saves the view holders which have scrolled off the screen. Okay, let's say you scroll down, some of the items will scroll off the screen. Earlier they were visible on the screen, now they have scrolled off the screen, so they can be reused. Okay, if the user switches the direction they were scrolling, suppose the user was scrolling up, now it has decided to scroll down. Okay, the view holders which were scrolled off the screen can be brought right back. Okay, on the other hand, if user keeps scrolling in the same direction, okay, the view holders will which have been off the longest can be rebound to the new data. The view holder does not need to be created or have its view inflated. Instead, the app just updates the view's contents to match the new item it was bound to. And if something gets changed, if the display items change, so you can notify the adapter by calling appropriate method notify. There are sequences of methods, okay, which call notify, and then 3 dots specify there are sequences of methods, okay, which start with notify method. The adapter's built-in code then rebinds just the affected items. Okay, this is it for today's session. Okay, now you can wait for an attendance link. I'm stopping a share and also stopping recording.